There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Tied, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing guest. He was the magical Mr. Mistoffelees on the U.S. National Tour 6 of Cats. So welcome, Paul Giarratano. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Hello.
I enjoy Mistoffelees because it's such a fun character, and there's so many questions for the magic of Mistoffelees and the dance number and all the other stuff that comes with it. So we will get to your tour and your cat and the story and all the craziness. But I always love asking, especially the group that went on tour with you, what was your introduction to cats? Was it the 98 movie? Was it a touring production? Was it seeing on Broadway? When were you first introduced to the show?
Yeah, I was one of those people who had never seen Cats. I didn't grow up with the VHS like so many of my peers. I feel were like, oh, I watch that movie all the time. I knew of Cats, of course. I actually don't think I saw a full production of it until tour, which is kind of funny. My intro to this show and like this version was really like when I got this video submission to audition. And I was like, all right, let's dive in. Let's go to YouTube and like really look up some stuff.
That's awesome. So this was like coming out of COVID, right? Like this is the tour coming back. So this was you were doing all these auditions, like this was video, this was like virtual and pretty much the whole process virtual.
Yeah, everything was like started out virtual. And I think Cats was actually my first audition after COVID. Like it was like the first thing that I was like, all right, I'll submit for this and here we go. And then it all just kind of snowballed from there, which is kind of crazy when I think about it now.
Yeah.
Being holed up for so long. And then I was like, yeah, this one, let's do this one.
Yeah. So, and for sure, like it's kind of a wild one to do. And at that point, like, had you started to figure out, like, it seems like now the virtual audition and the taping is just kind of second nature, but was it really new at that point for you?
Yeah, definitely very new. And also like I definitely came from more of a concert dance background, which like, dance companies, modern, contemporary. So even like the whole musical theater side of things was also kind of new for me. And I was like, oh, I guess round one is a tape. And that was like new. I mean, I'm sure it was new for people like during the pandemic, but like just the whole scope of it was new. And I was like, oh, I gotta like film myself and I gotta learn these things and I gotta get some studio space and set up the camera. Just a lot of fun, like learning new things is always fun. A little bit scary, but yeah, I think it all worked out in the end.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about, as coming from a dancer, like a dancing background, and then going into this whole like musical theater, and not just musical theater, like now you're in full costume, you're singing some, right? Like you have a couple that you got to definitely participate in. You're doing this on tour. I mean, what is that transition like for you going from pure dance to heavy dance, but like also a full musical production?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Cats is like a dance dream show. It's like so much dancing and like amazing choreography. And so that is a big blessing. The singing is like, all right, Paul, we got some work to do. Definitely at first was like a bit scary, but the more you do it and just kind of be like, all right, you're here for a reason. Like, let's do this. And then each day you hope it gets better and better. And just like the confidence with it. I think it's like a huge thing of confidence that only comes with practice and the more you do it.
Mm-hmm. So you go on tour. And this tour, like when you started going, this was really the first time I think that Cats was going back out after COVID. Like you were on the road and bringing this back to the public after it got abruptly paused in March of 2020. So how was the like early reactions for you with the audience? Like how did people start to like, was there some like fear of being back out in public? Because I remember when you started your tour, I kind of just started going back to things and I'm like, should we be here? Are we here yet? Have we made it to that point yet? And it's like such a unique show to make that. I'm like, was always interested about your early audiences.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely like, I think the two sides of it, like people were very excited to be able to go to a theater and see a show. But kind of like what you were saying at the same time, it's like, what's the etiquette? What's our new protocol? Like, should I be sitting right next to somebody? Should I, is it okay to take my mask off? Things like that. Like it was still so new and so fresh. We didn't know. And even like for us as performers, we were kind of like, we have to figure it out as we go, I guess. But early on, I think the overall reaction was just people were excited to see live performance again, and just that magic, rather than looking at a silver screen or looking at their TV again. They wanted that special connection that you can only get from live performance. And I think it just was like a long time coming for a lot of people. So it was like a big exhale, like, woo, we can see a show.
Yeah, definitely. I think too, like when you walk out and it's such a unique show, that there's also the like fun of that, of like, okay, I just really enjoyed that experience. It was different. It was almost, with it being a junkyard too, it's also kind of like I always thought like, it's a little bit of an easy way back into society here. Of like, it's such a bizarre thing. It's not like you're going to see a concert. Like it's different. It's very different.
Yeah, that is true. And I will say it was a little upsetting that we couldn't, for my version of the tour, like we didn't have the audience interaction, which would have been so fun. But I mean, I get it. I totally get it. Safety absolutely comes first. But yeah, it still is like a totally different world. You come in, you see the junkyard, you're like, what am I getting myself into?
Yeah. They're starting to bring back green eyes in other countries. So I'm thinking, if you ever get to go on again and you do Cats at another part of your career, you might get that opportunity.
All right. We'll see. Who's to say?
Exactly. I want to ask about Mistoffelees. So I always love hearing how you're explained your character and the story and the relationships you're supposed to play versus what you had to add yourself. So let's start with, in the rehearsal process, what are you told as, here's who the magical Mr. Mistoffelees is as a cat?
Yeah, I'll definitely say when we started, I feel like, so I know you've heard, Chrissy comes in and she does her whole cat spiel and she gives us the breakdown and the rundown. But we started rehearsals before she could get there. I think there was also some like COVID flying things that were happening for her. So I have to say at the beginning, I feel like there wasn't too much explanation. It was kind of like, let's, play with the script, play with the score, and kind of like formulate your own opinion of your cat. And then a couple weeks later, Chrissy had come in and kind of broke it down for us. And I feel like for Mistoffelees, it was never like too detailed. It was like, Mistoffelees is this cool cat and he's like kind of in the tribe, but kind of hangs out on his own. And then he like saves this day and he's friends with Tucker. It was like very up for interpretation for me, which was like a lot of fun, because I feel like I had a lot to play with, because it wasn't so set in stone of like, this is Mistoffelees. He only likes these cats and he only does this. I'm like really trying to go back in the archives.
Yeah.
I feel like for Misto, it was like, to me, he always felt like he was like periphery to the tribe. He's definitely a part of the tribe, but like he kind of like comes and goes, I felt. And like when he pleases and he's like chilling, and then when he needs to show off and do something fun or cool or like help the cats out with some magic, he's like, I got you guys, don't worry,
Yeah. So I'm fascinated by the fact that you got to kind of create your own before you got to hear Chrissy's. So you all as a group were kind of just like not creating your own interpretation. Like there's plenty of history of the show at that point, but you are kind of creating some of these relationships probably based on who you're early friends with on the cast and who you're spending your time with and who's your roommate potentially and all those things in between. So you like, did those parts play more of a factor of like the big one for Mistoffelees is always Tugger and Mistoffelees. And like, are they friends? Are they together? Is there like a relationship there? And I know you played it with Zach, and like how much of that was what you and Zach kind of created or played around with versus was like, ooh, this is supposed to be ambiguous or this is supposed to be you together?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a little bit of both. I mean, you have the material, like, during Tugger's number, Misto comes out and kind of shows Tugger off and has a little dance moment with him. So there's definitely like what's staged and what's there. But then, of course, we also were like, oh, how can we create kind of our own relationship? Are they together? Are they not together? Should we keep it mysterious? Which is what I feel like we kind of played with, is the mystery of it all. It doesn't have to be so set in stone. It's like, ooh, I'm going to flirt with Tugger. And then some other times it'll be like, he's kind of bothering me. Oh, everything is everything, as I like to say.
Yeah.
And then those moments,
So
what's so special
now,
about Cats is like the moments, the in-between moments that like sometimes show to show can change. So there will be connections that maybe you weren't making the night before, or, just kind of like we do as people in our everyday lives, like things happen, or you make eye contact with somebody else one night, and where does the story go from there? Which is really fun. And I think like one of the beauties of Cats as the musical, like as a show, is that there is some room for interpretation with that.
yeah, I think that's, completely. And so I want to go back to when you're doing this, even with Chris, like when Chrissy comes in, then what did she add? Or like, what was there anything that she said where you had, like, is it total opposite of what you had kind of just created or thought about? Like, is there anything that she was like, oh, wait, hold on. Or for, I guess when she's saying it to you, you're like, wait, I was thinking it differently. Now I got to like adjust.
I don't think so. To be to be honest, and I could be wrong, but I don't remember. Like Chrissy did go through each cat, but I don't remember there being too much detail about Mistoffelees, which I kind of found funny. I remember her going, Mistoffelees has a really great number, and he is a magic cat. And I was like, okay, yes, I do know that. Yeah, I feel like a lot of it was up for my interpretation of it, which I know I keep saying, but like, oh, like I'm standing next to Jellicle right here, or like, why are we the ones who fall asleep together at the ball, or things like that, which is always fun.
Yeah, it sounds like Chrissy kind of is like, all right, I've been doing this for 40 years. I'm going to give you a short version today because I had to come in late and just get you off and running. I think the other question I have for you is during that process, like what other, this is run for 40 plus years. How much did you do your own like Mistoffelees research of like, maybe this is what Jacob Brent said, or this is what somebody else said, or here's what I saw them do in the 98 movie, or I saw them do in 2016. How much of that got brought in versus how much of it is I got to create my own version of this? Because that is also the beauty of the show.
Yeah, I'll definitely say like on the dance portion, like I'm so grateful to have played Mistoffelees, and like all the Mistoffelees before me have been so amazing, and like really want to give them their props. Just like, it's like a dancer's dream. So I think like dance wise, I would look at the Mistoffelees number and different videos and be like, wow, that's like really cool how they're bringing their own kind of flair to it, and staying true to the character and the choreography. And then of course every role you want to make your own and kind of put your footprint on it. So really just finding that balance of like, okay, how can I honor this and this like iconic piece of musical theater history, and then how can I bring me to it? Which I felt like I mostly was able to dive into through the dance portion of it, which is really fun. Just like such a dream.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a iconic number and dance part of the show. So it's like, as a dance, I'm sure that getting to do the turns and everything is a huge thing. I want to go to your tour. When you were on tour, did you stop home? Did you get to kind of have like a spot where you got to bring in like a bunch of friends and family get to see it? And if you did, how did you explain to them what they were going to go see if they also were a group that didn't grow up with the VHS and knew what they were getting into?
Yeah, we had a stop in New Jersey, which I'm from Long Island, so that was the closest place. And then also like friends, a bunch of people live in the city. And for people that don't know the show or don't know anything, I like to not tell them anything. I would just be like, go in with an open mind. And I would say just try to enjoy what you see. Like just enjoy the music, enjoy the dancing, and then from there, like, create whatever journey you want or whatever narrative you want. But I tried to like really not give too much, because I think it's just, you can have the narrative and you can have all of that with the show, but really for people that didn't know, I was like, just enjoy what you're seeing, enjoy live performance, enjoy the dancing, and enjoy the amazing music.
I love it. So there's just like, don't even think about it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't try to dig in. Did you get any weird reactions from friends and family of like, I mean, obviously I think some people would know it. And then obviously they're seeing you perform, which is always so cool to get to see somebody doing it. But did anybody be like, all right, hold on, what did I watch?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a couple of people. They'd be like, wow, you're really like on your hands and knees crawling like a cat. And I was like, well, what'd you think? I'm going to be walking on two legs. Definitely a little bit. And I think it really seeing, somebody who's not used to that, seeing somebody transform into a cat with like our costumes and like the makeup and our wigs. Like we have such an amazing costume team, makeup department, wig department, and like we totally transform. And I think that's really cool, but also a little weird for some people.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, I guess, different. Yeah, it's different. Yeah, you go from, if you're seeing, and I don't even want to say traditional Broadway because it's like, it's all theater is theater. But if you're going to see like Book of Mormon or something that's not The Lion King or Wicked or something where there's like that heavy adjustment, then you're dressed up in just a costume and, not full on unitard and makeup and wig and tail and to your point, like you're becoming a cat.
Right.
So one of my favorite things about hearing from everyone who's been on tour is the chaos, I think, that comes along with being on tour and being on the road and moving. So I want to hear a couple of your fun stories. Like, what do you remember some of the funny moments that happen being on tour, either on stage, off stage, that are podcast appropriate, I guess, like but there's just some like crazy stuff I hear that has happened as you tour the United States as cats, like in a very unique show that definitely makes waves when it comes through a town. So I'd love to hear just a couple of your memories from being on tour.
One of the stories I think of, which is just fun and I think endearing for everybody, which isn't so much with the show. I'll try to give the show a story from the show, but we were on the bus and I don't remember exactly the situation, but the bus got stuck in like the mud. We were like pulling up. I think we were like right next to a theater and we had to drive through a field, maybe. I don't know. Something happened where we were not on the road. We were on like grass, muddy grass, and the bus totally got stuck in the mud. And it was just so funny because we were so close. And it just became like a whole big ordeal that we were stuck in the mud and we did not live that one down for a couple of weeks. Very fun. Wow. Just like having a bunch of cats on the bus, stuck in the mud, can't go anywhere. We're like, what's going on?
Do you remember where that was?
To be honest, I have no idea. I feel like all the cities have just like blended together.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's when you're on tour, and especially a tour where you're box and truck, right? Or you're mostly like, or bus and truck where you're going city to city, sometimes two places a week, 3 places a week at the most extreme times. You're probably unsettled, and thankfully you're not like a musician where you got to like thank the city or like you're doing your number. The junkyard's still the junkyard in every city, but it's got to be a little disorienting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as performers, always just super grateful to be performing, but some of those days are difficult when you're on the bus all day and then you have to go right to the theater and do a show. But just like tapping into this is like what I want to do, and seriously, like the whole tour, I was just so grateful to be performing again. So I didn't take it for granted one day, and like to be with such amazing people and who always kept it lighthearted, and we try to keep it fun. And that's the beauty also of touring with like a cast, and they become family. So when somebody, needs a little extra love that day, everyone kind of flocks to that person, and then it just kind of shifts organically, which is so nice.
Yeah. it's a tribe. You're a tribe. You're in all senses of the world. What about some onstage fun? Did you have any crazy memories from stuff that happened, or that were
I'm trying
unexpected?
to think specifics. I mean, there was always like fun. There was never a dull moment in the junkyard. Some of my favorite moments would just be, and I guess it's mostly only funny to me because the audience doesn't really know, but like sometimes the Misto jacket would glitch and it just always created a fun Mistoffelees number. So like,
what do you mean
the
glitch?
jacket,
Yeah.
The lights are very tech heavy. And sometimes like the jacket's supposed to light up rainbow at this specific point, and then it would just be like one little part would just like blink and blue, and it's nobody's fault, like whatever, it's technology, things happen. But it would just be kind of funny to me.
I bet you some of the super fans noticed that, because there are some Cats fans that like know every inch of the show.
That jacket is amazing though. Like whoever designed that, like, it's so freaking cool. And like my favorite is when it's like the rainbow light up. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'd always be like, I'm taking this home. And they'd be like, no, you're not, Paul. It is way too expensive.
I love it. I mean, that number is iconic. Like it is, when you think about the show, there are definitely pieces that are more well known, and Mistoffelees' turns are one of those things that it's like, people know it's coming, and it's super, super well known, and people are excited for it. I also think it says, because of where it is in the show, it's like this moment where you've kind of been through a lot at that point. Like it's towards the end, you've been through a whole lot. Like I can't even imagine as a performer, but even as an audience, like you've watched a lot of different parts of this piece, and it's like, this is going to be my kind of like fun solo little dance piece before we get to the end and memory.
Yeah, definitely. It's right at the end. You've done a full show. I definitely think they have that in mind though with the staging. There's definitely, as some other castmates would not like me to forget, Misto has breathable moments, especially in Act 1, where he's just kind of off stage, which is nice, because then when it comes to Act 2, I'll say that the number is deceitfully harder than it looks, I think. Like even like learning it, watching it, I was like, oh, cool. Like, great. We got this, Paul. And then you start doing it and you're like, oh, this is like a big cardio moment. You got to be ready.
Yeah.
Like when we were in Denver, that 8th show, or like the last show in Denver, I remember my legs feeling so heavy. It wasn't so much like the breathing, the oxygen, just like I mean, I think it's related to the oxygen, but my legs felt so heavy. I was like, there's no way. I'm going to jump around for 8 minutes. Like, can't do it.
Yeah.
But something happened.
Yeah. It is interesting you say that, because there is that piece of like, when is the, like, how do they create your track to allow you that moment, knowing you're going to get this like 8-minute full on cardio workout 2 hours, 2:15 into the show, like versus the ball's kind of in the middle, and some of these other parts that are, I think, really dance heavy are mixed through. So they have to like find those spots for you. You don't get to be old Deuteronomy and just like sit there for a while.
Right. I mean, everybody is working very hard in the show. The biggest moment actually is, which I always find interesting, is during Remark, when, everyone first meets Grisabella. Everybody's on stage except for Mistoffelees, at least in our staging. I have like a moment after the tugger playoff, and I get to go off stage and like chill for 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the other one, actually during the ball, Mistoffelees is actually kind of chilling for a lot of it. So he has like his big moments in the ball, but then when like a lot of he does the big group dancing, but for a lot of it, he's chilling too in the wings.
Nice. Wow.
He's like, hey, go guys. Woo-hoo. I love watching everyone crush at the ball. So talented. Everybody, seriously, was so talented. It was like always a joy and pleasure to watch in the wings, or anytime I could catch my friends doing their thing. It was just like the biggest joy.
Yeah. Did you, one other kind of tour question, I guess, is what did you, like relationships did you add or really play into on stage a lot as Mistoffelees? Like who were the cats that you gravitated most towards when you were in the show, to kind of like, or whatever relationships you created with them, of like boyfriend, girlfriend, brother, mom, dad? Like, how did you interact in those?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Tugger one is such a big one. I never like to say like specifically if we're together or not. I like to, keep it open, but it was definitely playful with Tugger the whole time, of course. And then Chris was my roommate on tour who played Skimbleshank. So we definitely had some moments, some stage moments, but some that we added in ourselves, which are always fun because it's like Misto and Skimble. You don't usually think of them together. And then I always felt like Pouncible felt kind of like a younger, eager Mistoffelees to some respect. So that felt fun too. I don't know about like a family relationship. I feel like Pouncible would look at Mistoffelees and be like, oh, wow, maybe I'll become a magician's apprentice, kind of thing.
Yeah.
He felt like he had the same kind of energy, which was fun.
One day, you're a mentor.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back for more of The Wrong Cat Died. I want to do some rapid fire to get to the ultimate debate here. So if you could go on stage tomorrow to play any cat, forget if you could sing it, dance it, male, female, if you could just do one day of any track, which track would you love to do one time?
I would love to do Tantamile.
Tantamile. Interesting.
I've always been fascinated by the twins, but something about Tantamile specifically, I just think would be so fun. And I mean, Alexia was phenomenal, but I just think that would be such a good one show. See how it goes.
Yeah, the twins are fascinating too, because you get to do all the jump and everything before. You get to almost precursor everything.
I love the twins. They're so cool.
Who are your favorite and least favorite characters in the show?
In the show, I mean, I love the twins. I think they add a really interesting kind of mysterious energy to the whole thing. I think I also really love Jenny Annie Dots giving it all. And Michelle, I mean, I had to work with Michelle. She was just amazing. And I also I like a lot of the cats. Definitely the twins, Jenny Annie Dots. I mean, I love Misto. He's fun. Cats that I don't, as cats. Let's see.
Yeah, take the people out of it.
Oh, no, I know. I had a good time with everyone I was on tour with. I'm just trying to, I never was like, oh, I don't like this cat, really. Maybe maybe Mungo Jerry. It's enough. Be mischievous, but figure it out,
I like it. And I like that you also are only picking him. Rumple Teaser's fine.
Yeah, Rump kind of, I don't know. Rump, I feel, has a good handle on the amount. She's yeah, but I'm still, nice and fun. But something about Mungo felt a little
too much.
Yeah.
What is your favorite song in the show?
Ooh, fun. Okay. I mean, McCavity is so good. Definitely probably either McCavity or honestly the opening. Jellicle song for Jellicle Cats is so good. I love it. I think it's such, the music is great. I think it's so clever. And I think it's such a fun way to open a show and is totally boom for the audience. They're whoa. And then it keeps going, which I think is fun too.
It's a perfect introduction to the show. My answer has been McCavity for a while, and it's changed over the years. But right now, it's still, that number still is
good.
It's great. Okay, I don't generally talk about the 2019 movie, but if you saw it, especially with the change in Mistoffelees' personality, what were your thoughts on that?
I think I only saw the first half.
Okay.
And to be honest, I really don't remember. I'm not even trying to be whatever, but I really don't remember. I remember seeing it a little bit. I don't really remember watching Mistoffelees and being
they made him really timid. And that was like a big, like everybody was like, it's not like the big magical, incredible magician. Right. He's just this like shy, little awkward, timid magician. And I wasn't a huge fan, but I'm always curious as someone who got to play it and play the stage production version, like, were you as insulted as most of the fans were of the decision to turn his character that way? So, okay, never mind. Let's go to the most important question.
Here it is, folks.
I have argued at length I don't think Grizabella should have been the right Jellicle choice, even though I am a big fan of the person who played your Grizabella. So I have argued for almost every other cat at this point, but I want to know, you, Paul, if you're old Deuteronomy, who are you making as your Jellicle choice and why?
Yeah, see, this is what's funny about this question is that there's so many layers to it, okay? Mm-hmm. But there's also, like, my whole big thing during the whole run of the show is, like, is this whole tribe just reincarnated cats? Are we just different versions of each other? Or is this, like, there's so many boom, 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 left, right. What is it? I'm going to say my one answer, which is if things made sense or if all this is just supposed to be whatever, is Gus. I mean, come on. I know people say Gus all the time, but it just makes sense. Like, Gus is the Jellicle choice, and he's so cute, and he's just so good, and he's ready. Like, let him live his life, go to the Heaviside Layer, and then he can come back and act his little heart out in whatever cat he's reincarnated as, The theater cat, boom. He could be star of every show. Diga Daga. The other one, maybe just to, like, throw it left field, like throw it for a loop, we could send, like, what would it be like if, like, Victoria gets sent to the Heaviside Layer, because she kind of, yes, she maybe, it's also like, how do you look at it? Is it a reward to go to the Heaviside Layer? Is it a punishment? I think people look at it different ways. So it's like she's accepted Grizabella, and then just when everyone thinks, like, oh, she taps the paw, maybe old Deuteronomy is like, oh, wow, because of, like, you took the courage, you stepped up, guess what? You get to go. Switch.
So you've asked all of the questions that I have wanted to know and I don't know an answer on. And I think the two most important ones you have nailed, which is, what is the criteria? And I kind of always wonder, is it the same every year? And then the question about, like, is it a reward or is it a punishment? Like, what is it? Like, how does that factor in? Because depending on how you look at those two things, it could change. Because everyone who's like, a lot of the defense of Grizabella is like, well, it's a redemption story. And I'm like, well, is there a cat coming back next year too? Like, is there just a bunch of exiled cats that are going to come back every year? Or, like, how does that work if this is an annual tradition?
No, I know. And then the other thing on top of it is, do you lose consciousness when you come back of your past self? Which, like, you think yes, but, like, who knows? Maybe, like, when Grizabella comes back as whatever, she knows, she's, like, aware. She's like, oh, I was Grizabella in this past life. How do I either act differently to not have the same fate? There's so many layers.
So who do you think, if you, like, was last year's choice? Like, which kitten in the tribe was reborn and is now this year?
I think Syllabub.
Okay.
I mean, because she's a baby, sure. It's like she was just born, but she gives me reincarnated vibes.
Yeah. A lot of people think Victoria, too. I think part of that is the new movie using her as the, like, conduit for the story. And also,
I think that
your Victoria said that of, like, I was last year, I'm back, and that's why she's having her, like, moment of her,
and it kind of makes sense
awakening.
Too. Like, I feel like Victoria, not just with, like, the paw touch, but, like, I feel like throughout, like, Victoria and Grizabella kind of have an interesting thing going on.
Mm-hmm. So you're picking Gus. That's what I'm marking down for our tallying at home. I love it. I always love whenever it's a non-Grizabella answer. So here's my other question about this, though. Did your cast ever discuss this? Like, did you think about this, or was it just like, nope, Grisabella's going?
I don't think we did. think it was just like, nope, Isabella's going. Just like you said. I mean, I'm sure we like talked about it on our own, like whatever, like, oh, da, 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 da. But not like serious, like,
Yeah.
why is Isabella? Da, da, da. Yeah.
Okay. That's what I'm slowly trying to change. I'm trying to make all future productions have this as part of rehearsal. Is like,
they're going to have a big sit
on.
down.
We got to
why is it Isabella? What does it mean? What's the criteria? Who came back last year?
That is my goal, is to influence
you have
future
to make
cats.
a printout, like a worksheet. Send it to the cast.
There's got to be a book somewhere. Like there's clearly a book that they like give a little bit of the story production. But when this goes on as a licensed production, it's like it's happening for 2 weeks or 3 weeks regionally. So that you don't get the like Chrissy coming in and telling the full story. You generally get somebody who's doing it. And I call that cat's telephone, which is like you're getting a passed down version of it. And that's why there's so many interpretations. And I don't think I don't know if this was ever discussed at the like initial Broadway and West End kind of productions. And I'm like, this might have just been totally not thought of. And then now it's like, well, should it be thought of? Like, this is the whole climax of the show. We gotta have some thought here into the future of this.
That's a good point.
Well, I'm so glad that I got a non-Grisbella answer. Yeah,
it's in your hands.
I'm doing the Jellicle Lord's work every day to make this a priority. So, this has been super fun. How can people stay in touch with you on social media and keep up with everything you're doing?
Yeah, mostly Instagram. It's just my name with an underscore. So Paul _Giarratano. Hopefully that's spelled out somewhere in the
it'll be. I'll tag
notes.
it. I'll tag it. Yep.
That's mostly, I don't know, I feel where I put all my stuff and keep up to date with me.
Awesome. Well, this has been super fun. I appreciate you taking the time to record with me and choose somebody not named Grisabella to keep those numbers moving in the right direction of the competition between her and Gus.
Tally?
I do have a big tally, and right now Grisabella's still in the lead, but she's less than half the votes, and Gus is in second. And so I'm like, I'm trying to get this to where he takes over, and eventually we get a production where she doesn't go to the heavyset layer, and we let the audience choose.
You know what, my question? I just thought of something. When does Old Deuteronomy go?
It's a great question.
Maybe that's my answer, because it's just like, it has to be soon. But if he's the one who's ultimately deciding, there's one day the whole tribe is just like, wait, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Or maybe maybe he's immortal. Also, what happens if you go to when you go there on the 9th life, you're done?
They're done. So that's Gus. That's the anti-Gus argument, actually, is that he doesn't have another one.
There's no one left. That could be Old Dude too.
I actually think if I'm doing an Old Dude, I don't think I'm giving him as a Jellicle choice. I think what ends up happening is Monkus Trap finally assassinates him mid-year. Because he's like, it's time. I'm ready. Like, I've been waiting and waiting and waiting. I think it happens outside. Unless what's his arc though? Is it a redemption story? It goes back to that $1 million first question. What's the decision criteria every year?
That's true.
But we'll never know, because we only have one ball to go off of.
I know. One a year.
And that's why I have 130 plus episodes. Being able to ask these questions that there are super fans asking. So I'm not the first to ever ask these questions. I'm not the only one asking these. But I think I'm the only one documenting it currently for the world to have access to.
Yeah. And I think people are grateful for that.
Well, I will keep your vote as Gus, and I'll give you a second vote as Old Deuteronomy.
Old Dude. Yeah. We'll throw it in there.
Well, this has been so much fun. So thanks for taking the time to record with me.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah. And thanks everyone else for listening to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else listen to podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and Threads at The Wrong Cat Died, or check our website, thewrongcatdied.com.